Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. Today I'm sharing the cards I made using Love From Lizi's October 2021 Super Card Kit. The theme is Enchanted Woods. As I'm recording this voiceover, the kit and all of the add-ons are still available, but quantities are always limited. If you are interested in any of the products I show in this video, I will have links provided in the description box below. For card design number 1, I'm using a card sketch for inspiration. This is Sweet Sunday number 245. This is a very simple card. One of the pattern papers that's included in the kit has this full image. There's sweet little critters, there's a teapot, and lots of little fairies. And I didn't want to cut down that panel too much since I wanted to feature it on a card. So I thought this sketch would be perfect. I did alter those measurements so I could have a larger image box. First, I'm adding some Love From Lizi peel-offs along the background. These are the clear gold mirror peel-offs in the pinstripe style. I'm using the widest width and just putting them toward the upper portion of the card. In order to get the peel-offs nice and straight on the background, I first lined up the pink cardstock piece with the lines on my craft mat. I only used one full strip for that middle peel-off, and then the two that go next to it, I used some of the smaller scraps. I'll layer this panel on some black cardstock, then put my card front onto a card base. And all of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, so 5.5 inches by 4.25 inches. Before I attach the image box, I'll add a couple small banners in the lower left-hand corner. I'm just cutting the fishtail freehand, but you could use a banner die if that's easier. I'll put a little bit of ATG tape on the back and adhere both of those banners. Then I'll adhere the large image panel onto my card. So you can see I really made that image box quite a bit larger than what's indicated on the card sketch. For this card, I decided to leave off the sentiment. I'll just add one to the inside of the card. To finish off the card, I'm adding some of the gold glitter mini star peel-offs, putting 2 of them in the lower right-hand corner and 1 in the upper left-hand corner. They'll add just that little bit of sparkle. I changed my mind on the 1 star in the upper left-hand corner. And since they're little fairies, I decided to make their wings sparkly. I'm using a clear glitter brush from scrapbook.com. And there is my finished card. Very simple, but with that beautiful pattern paper, I really didn't want to cover up any more of the image. Now moving on to card design number 2. This is one of my favorite cards, but do let me know which card is your favorite. The card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. It's number 501. For the background paper, I have some cream colored pearlescent cardstock, and this is part of the pearlescent cardstock bundle that's an add-on. I have 2 different pattern papers. One has beautiful fall leaves in the background, and I also have this striped pattern paper. And I decided to cut just some small pieces since it's going to go across the background and most of it will be covered up. So I didn't need a full piece. I used the grid lines on my craft mat to help line up those 2 pieces. Next, I'll add some gold glitter peel-offs along the outside edge of that stripe paper. And I only need some tiny pieces since, again, most of that will be covered up. And this is the pinstripe style. I generally wrap the end of the peel-off around the back of my card panel, but the glitter peel-offs have a little more dimension and I don't want to leave a bump on the front of the card. So instead, I just flip over that panel and trim off the edge. Some of the stripes on the pattern paper have the look of glitter, but there's actually no glitter at all. But adding those glitter peel-offs gives it a little extra sparkle. I'll layer this panel on some burgundy cardstock. And this is cardstock from my stash. The kit does include several sheets of colored cardstock, but since I add so many layers to my cards, I do bring in some extra cardstock. Next, I'll attach the leaf pattern paper to the center of the card. I'm using some liquid adhesive for that. The kit includes lots of great ephemera images, including these darling little fairies. And if you love to color images, there's also a sweet little fairy included on the stamp set in the kit, and also a few other fairies on some of the add-on stamp sets. The sentiment is "Thank you very much," and this is part of the stamp set that's included in the kit, and it also includes a coordinating die. I love having the coordinating dies with the sentiments. I'm popping up both the sentiment and the fairy image using some thin foam dimension. For the little banner that goes in the upper left-hand corner, I did cut this quite a bit shorter than what's indicated on the sketch. I'm just using some more of that burgundy cardstock. Cut a little fishtail on the end, and I'm adhering it to the card using some liquid adhesive. Using the sequin mix that's included in the kit, I'll add a few of the sequins. It's this beautiful color. I'm not even sure what it is. Maybe a pinkish rose gold. Putting 2 of them in the upper left-hand corner and 1 on the right side by the fairy. I have an embellishment wand to pick those up, adding a drop of liquid adhesive and just pressing those sequins in place. Then I'll also add some glitter to the fairy's wings and her little crown, using the clear glitter brush from scrapbook.com. I also put a little bit on her little wand. It's cute. It has a moon on the end and a little bow. So there's my finished card, and this time I made 2. Since that leaf panel in the background is 3 inches wide, I was able to get 2 of them, so I decided I would make 2 similar cards, just use a couple different fairies. Now moving on to card design number 3. The card sketch is from the Paper Players. It's number 279. I have this fun chevron paper for the background. The blue chevrons look like glitter, but there's no glitter at all on this paper. It's all smooth. I'm adding a 2-inch panel of this really fun mushroom pattern paper. To break up the busyness between the 2 pattern papers, I'm adding some black pinstripe peel-offs along the edge of the mushroom pattern paper. And on that right side, part of it will be covered up with the image, so I didn't need to use a full strip. Tuck those ends around the back, put some ATG tape on the back of this panel. I'll layer it on some black cardstock and then again on some burgundy cardstock. I did trim just a little bit off that black cardstock on the top of the panel so that all of those matted layers were even. Most of the backgrounds of my cards are 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. Then I add an additional 1/8 of an inch for the cardstock layer. So in this case, I have 2 cardstock layers. The black cardstock would be 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch. And then the burgundy cardstock would be the full A2 panel. For the sentiment, I've already stamped this out. Thank you so much. And this sentiment and the images I'll be using later are from one of the add-on stamp sets. For the banner that goes across the card, I'm using some more of that burgundy cardstock. Just cut a fishtail on the right side. So now I'll add some of the images above the sentiment. I'm using my mini MISTI just to make sure I get a nice solid impression. So here's that add-on stamp set. There are several large mushrooms and there's also some teeny tiny mushrooms. So I'm using 3 of the small mushrooms, laying them above the sentiment, trying to make sure to get them nice and straight. The ink color is Merlot from Catherine Pooler. It matches beautifully with that burgundy color in the pattern paper. The mushroom stamp set is so fun. If you love to color images, it's perfect. If you don't like to color images like myself, it still works great. You still get all that great detail using colored inks. You could also do some heat embossing or paper piecing. So many different options. Before I adhere the stitch circle die cut, I am adding some scrap cardstock to the upper portion of this circle where it goes off of that banner, just to keep everything nice and level. Then for a final finishing touch, I'm adding some of the glitter enamel dots, putting 2 of them in the upper right hand corner and 1 to the left of the sentiment. I love the glitter enamel dots. They're super sparkly. And there is my finished card. I love this mushroom pattern paper. It's one of my favorites. Now moving on to card design number 4. I won't be using a card sketch this time. I have some more beautiful fall leaf pattern paper. I'll have that for the background. I'll be adding a stitched rectangle die cut. But first I'll put 2 of the peel-offs, and this is a new peel-off color that's included in the kit. Just putting them along the background toward the lower portion of this panel. Again, using my craft mat to try to get those nice and straight. Tuck those ends around the back, put some ATG tape on, and I'll layer this panel on some of the maroon cardstock. And this is cardstock that is included in the kit, and it's a gorgeous color. Put my card front onto a card base. And I use some of the white pearlescent cardstock for this stitched rectangle. This die is also from Love From Lizi's Background Builder Set 1. Adhere it to the card on the left-hand side. Then I'll be creating a little scene with a couple of mushrooms and this adorable snail ephemera piece. The larger mushroom I'll glue down directly using some liquid adhesive. And then the smaller mushroom and also the snail, I have some foam squares on the back side so I can pop them up. All 3 of these images are also available on some of the add-on stamp sets. So if you love the images, those are great stamp sets to pick up. And all of the add-on stamp sets also include the coordinating dies, so that's a bonus. Next, I'll stamp the sentiment. I'm using my mini MISTI to make sure I get a good impression since I already have most of my card assembled. I'll be using the sentiment, "Thank you so much." I think that's my favorite one. And I'll ink this up using some Honeybee Stamps Intense Black ink. Since I am stamping on some pearlescent paper, I want to make sure to let that dry for a moment so I don't smudge the ink. I felt that that right-hand side needed just a little something, so I'm cutting a wide banner using some of the maroon cardstock, and I'll just adhere that to the right side of the sentiment. I'll also bring in some of the sequins using the cream color, just the smallest size. Wasn't sure if I wanted to use sequins or some of the gem stickers that are included in the kit, but I decided to stick with the sequins. There's 2 different sizes of this cream color sequin, but I decided just to use the smallest size. I'll put 2 of them in the lower left-hand corner and 1 to the right of the sentiment. Then to finish off the card, I'll use the clear glitter brush. I'll add it to the shell of the snail, since we need a sparkly snail shell. And I'll also add it to each of the mushrooms. The larger mushroom, I'm putting it on those little gold sparkly swirls, and then the smaller mushroom, I'm adding it to the very top portion, that blue color. So there is my finished card. I love how this one turned out. So easy. Those ephemera pieces are just adorable. Now moving on to card design number 5. The card sketch is Sweet Sunday number 175. There are several pattern papers that have all these little triangle pieces in the background. So I decided to use one that has the pink, blue, and some of the gold glitter look. I'll be adding this strip of pink cardstock. Also have a strip of the cream colored pearlescent cardstock, and I'm using some of the gold glitter sway peel-offs, just putting one along the bottom edge of the pink cardstock. I'll adhere this piece to the center of the card. Then I'm using one of the ribbon colors that's included in the kit. Matches that pink cardstock very closely. First I put some double-sided tape down. Remove the release paper, and then I'll attach the ribbon. And I like to cut the ends of the ribbon just a little bit longer. Put some ATG tape on the back. I'll secure the ends of the ribbon to the back side of the panel. And just to make sure they won't come off later, I'm also putting a strip of double-sided tape. I'll layer this panel on some black cardstock and then again on some pink cardstock. I'll put my card front onto a card base. Several of the pattern paper sheets have lots of these sweet little critters, so I really wanted to feature some of those images on my card. I used a circle die to cut out this piece, and I tried to position it so I could feature several of those cute critters. So I have the little bear drinking a cup of tea or coffee. There are a few foxes, a deer, the snail, and then there's a little sprinkling of the mushrooms all over the background. I layered it first on some pink cardstock and then again on some black cardstock. And that black cardstock really adds some nice contrast. There isn't really an upside of this pattern paper since the critters are all at different angles. I will pop up this circle using some foam squares. Since it is going over those other layers with the pearlescent cardstock and the ribbon, I didn't want to put the foam squares in the center, so instead I'm putting some scrap cardstock pieces. And I keep flipping it over and running my hand across the front to make sure there isn't any extra bumps. I'll put liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it to the card. For the sentiment, I've already stamped out the word hello. One of the add-on stamp sets has lots of little sentiments that you can mix and match together. So for my sentiment, I want it to be happy hello. I use some black ink for the word hello, but for the word happy, I'm using the Merlot color from Catherine Pooler. And I'll be adhering that circle to the lower left-hand corner. Since part of it will be on top of that image circle die cut, I want to keep it at the same level. So I'm adding some foam dimension just in the areas where it won't be touching that other circle. So on one little area, I'm using a thin foam square. All the other spots, I'm using some regular foam dimension. Put some liquid adhesive on the back and adhere it to that lower left-hand corner. Then to finish off the card, I'll bring in the sequin mix. And for this card, I'm using just the gold sequins. I'll put 2 of them in the upper right-hand corner and 1 to the left of that image circle and above the happy hello sentiment. Use my embellishment wand to pick those up, and I'll adhere them in place using a drop of Barely Art liquid glue. I like to use the opposite end of the embellishment wand to press those sequins in place. And there is my finished card. I love the images in this kit, they're so sweet. Now moving on to card design number 6. I have one of the stamps that's included in the kit. It looks like a bunch of stardust or sparkles. I'll be stamping it on a stitched oval die cut. I'll do some heat embossing. So first I treated that oval with some anti-static powder, stamped it using some Versamark ink. Then I'll be using some Love From Lizi embossing powder. This is Golden Glitz. So it's this beautiful gold sparkle to it. I'll heat set that using my heat gun. It's hard to see, but it's super sparkly. The image didn't cover the entire oval, but I'll be adding a sentiment and an image. So those little areas where there aren't any sparkles, it'll be covered up. So once I get all of those areas heat set, you can see that pretty sparkle. For the background paper, I have some more of the leaf pattern paper. There's several sheets, but I think this color is my favorite. It has pink, and then the leaves are a light yellow and brown. Layer that panel on some dark brown cardstock. Put my card front onto a card base, and for this card I am leaving that 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. I'll attach the stitched oval die cut using some liquid adhesive, and I am putting an acrylic block on top for some extra weight to let that glue adhere. So once that's all dry, I can add my image and the sentiment. So I have another sweet little fairy, and I did put some foam tape on the back side to pop her up. The sentiment, I've stamped this out and used the coordinating die. This is Autumn Wishes and Fairy Kisses. I'll adhere the sentiment first and put the fairy flying above it. To finish off the card, I'll add some of the gold gem stickers that are included in the kit, putting 2 of them in the upper right-hand corner and 1 to the left of the sentiment. I'll also bring out the glitter brush and add it to the fairy's wings and the little wand. These fairies are just adorable. And I love making their wings super sparkly. So there's my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I do want to mention something about the sentiment. On the set, there's a couple of small stars in the lower right-hand corner, but the coordinating die does not cut out those stars. So after I inked up the stamp, I wiped away the ink that was on the little stars, and then I used the coordinating die to cut out the sentiment. If you don't wipe off the ink, part of one of the stars will still be visible on the sentiment when you cut it out. Now moving on to card design number 7. I'm using another fun mushroom pattern paper, and the way they printed this design, it almost looks like it's a mere foil on the mushrooms, but it's not. So I'm layering this piece on some blue cardstock. I cut out a scallop border die, adding that to the left side of the mushroom piece. Then I also have a 1-inch strip of some stripe paper. And I'll first add that stripe piece onto the card base. And if you've watched my videos before, you know I don't generally add my pieces directly onto the card base. I usually put them on a card front first, but for some reason I decided to just glue them down directly onto that card base. I'm adding a pink stitch circle die cut, and I did use some pattern paper for that pink circle, but it's not included in the kit. I found it in my cardstock drawer. I think I kept it for that light pink color, and it matches perfectly with the pattern paper in the kit. I'll be adding one of the ephemera pieces of this sweet little deer, and the sentiment is, "Oh dear, sorry I'm late." And that sentiment is included on one of the add-on stamp sets. Before adhering it in place, I will put some scrap cardstock pieces on the back side to keep it nice and level. And I'll glue it down using some liquid adhesive. For embellishments on the card, I'm adding a couple of the wooden mushrooms. These are included in the kit. They have the fun etched detail that matches the pattern paper. You could add them just as that natural wood design, but I decided to ink them up using some gold metallic ink. So I'm just pressing them directly onto the ink pad. To make sure that ink was nice and dry, I did use my heat gun. To adhere those to the card, I'm using the multimedia matte adhesive. I'll just put those in the upper left-hand corner. I love all the etched detail on those wooden mushrooms. To finish off the card, I'm bringing out the glitter brush again and adding it to the antlers on that sweet little deer. So there's my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For the second card, I used some blue ink for the mushrooms. I lost some of the design since that was a fairly dark blue ink. So I also added some Nuvo glitter drops to all that little detail on the mushrooms. Now moving on to card design number 8. I have this fun fairy pattern paper for the background, and this is a full A2 size panel. I didn't want to trim it down anymore since I would have cut off more of the fairies. So I really wanted to feature quite a few of the fairies on this card. I'm adding some of this striped paper, and this was the top piece from the very first card that had that full image. I lined that striped paper with some of the clear gold mirror peel-offs, put my card front onto a card base, and for me this looks very odd to not have that cardstock matted layer. I'll be stamping out the sentiment on some pink cardstock. I'm using the Merlot color from Catherine Pooler. I wanted to add a little extra sparkle to that sentiment, so I'm using Love From Lizi's Rainbow Wishes embossing powder. This is a clear embossing powder, but it leaves this beautiful iridescent finish. When I first stamped out the sentiment, I don't think I was quick enough to add the embossing powder since it only attached to part of the word wherever. So I did stamp it out again, and this time I have all of that beautiful sparkle on the entire sentiment. I'll be adding another fairy. I have some foam squares on the back side so I can pop her up, put her above the sentiment. And then for the sentiment, I'll glue it down directly. And this pink cardstock is the same pattern paper that I used on the previous card. It was just the back side. I had some extra pieces left over from whatever collection that was from. To finish up the card, I'll add some of the gem stickers. It's a cream color, but it also has a little bit of an iridescent finish. So depending on how the light hits it, it almost looks pink. Then I'll bring out the glitter brush and add it to our little fairy's wings and also her wand. And my glitter brush was running low, so I did need to squeeze it to get it running again. So now it's nice and juicy. So there is my finished card. I love how this one turned out, even without that matted cardstock layer. Now moving on to card design number 9. One of the pattern papers that's included in the kit has all these lovely floral bouquets. I'll layer this panel on some of the white pearlescent cardstock and then again on a dark teal cardstock. Then I'll put my card front onto a card base. This floral paper is so pretty. Several of the ephemera pieces have different floral blooms and bouquets. So for this card, I'll be featuring one of the larger floral pieces. If I simply attach that ephemera piece onto the floral paper, it really would have been lost since that floral paper is fairly busy. So first I'll be adding a vellum oval die cut. The trick with vellum is you don't want to put adhesive on the back where you're going to see it. So first I adhered the ephemera piece onto the oval, and then I could flip over this piece and add adhesive everywhere the ephemera piece is, since you're not going to see that area at all. Then I can attach it to the center of the card. There's still enough of that lovely floral paper showing, but now that floral ephemera piece really pops against the background. For the sentiment, I'm adding the word hello, and this is from one of the add-on stamp sets. Before adhering it in place, I'll add that scrap piece of cardstock on the right side, and then just glue it down directly using some liquid adhesive. I used some of the ribbon that's included in the kit and tied a little bow, and I'll adhere it onto the card using a small glue dot. I was trying to place it so I wouldn't cover up the hello sentiment. Then I'm trying to decide if I wanted to use the gem stickers or the glitter enamel dots. I decided to use the glitter enamel dots. It's one of the orange colors and it matches beautifully with the orange in the flowers. So put 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 1 to the right of the floral bouquet. And just because I'm adding some more of the glitter brush to all of the flowers on that ephemera piece. So there's my finished card. I love how this one turned out. Very simple design, but those floral images are beautiful. Now moving on to card design number 10, and this is my final card design. I'm using some cream cardstock for the background, and I'll be adding a strip of this light brown pearlescent cardstock. This is part of the pearlescent cardstock bundle. I'm using one of the new peel-off colors. This is Brown Mirror, and it has a gold foil finish along the edge. And this is included in one of the peel-off add-on bundles. I only need some small pieces since most of that area will be covered up with the pattern paper. I'll layer this piece on some brown cardstock, and this is a really pretty brown cardstock that's included in the kit. For the large image, I'm using some more of the pattern paper, and this features all of the different critters and fairies, little mushrooms, just a smaller scale of them. I'll layer that piece on the same brown cardstock. Before adhering it to the card, I am putting that scrap cardstock on the upper area where it goes off of that pearlescent strip. And I'll just adhere it to the card. I'll put my card front onto a card base. I think the colors on this card are very unique. That background paper has this peach, sort of a brown color, and then of course all the sweet little images. I'll be adding the bear ephemera piece, and I'm doing the same thing that I did on the previous card. I have a vellum oval, and I'll attach the bear. I'll put adhesive just in the area where that bear ephemera piece is and adhere it to the left side of the card. And it's hard covering up some of those images on the pattern paper, but you can still see quite a few of them off to the right side. For the sentiment, I'm using "You Make the World More Magical." I stamped it using some brown ink, used the coordinating die, and then using that same coordinating die, I cut out a second piece from some glitter cardstock. I just layered those two pieces together, just offset them so you could see lots of that glitter from underneath the sentiment. Popped it up using some thin foam squares, and I'll adhere it to the right of the bear. Then to finish off the card, I'll add some of the gem stickers, this time in the brown color. I'll put one above the sentiment and two in the lower left-hand corner. And since I'm having so much fun using the glitter brush, decided the bear needed a little bit of sparkle. So I'm adding it just to the cheeks and also the little drink that the bear is holding. So I don't know, it's either hot cocoa, tea, or coffee maybe. And there is my finished card. This is another favorite of mine. Now here's a quick recap of the 13 cards I made using Love From Lizi's October 2021 Super Card Kit. The theme is Enchanted Woods. This is a beautiful card kit, and since it is a super kit, there's lots of extra items. Lizi also has several of the items available as add-ons, so if you don't want to purchase the kit, maybe you just want the stamp sets or the paper, those are available as well. I do have links provided in the description box if you are interested in any of the items I showed in this video. And coming very soon, Lizi's November 2021 card kit will be released. Now here's everything I have left over from the kit. I still have 3 full sheets of cardstock and 3 half sheets of cardstock. Lots and lots of pattern paper scraps, since this is a 24 sheet pattern paper pack. I believe I have 9 full sheets of the 6x6 pattern paper. There's still lots of the ephemera, bunch of the ribbon. I was even going to add a little burgundy bow, and I never did. I have some more of the glitter enamel dots, the gem stickers, some more of the wooden mushrooms, the sequins. There is a roll of washi tape, and that's the only thing I didn't use. And here is the stamp set, and it also has the coordinating dies, and also the sheet of peel-offs that's included in the kit. So still quite a bit of product left over. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.